Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to another video. And today I'm going to be introducing A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. So if you don't know, over the last nearly 2 years, I have been hosting the Mega Dickens Readalong, where we read a novel by Charles Dickens every month or two, and we've been working our way through all of his novels in chronological publication order. And we are really getting nearer to the end now. A Tale of Two Cities is the 12th book that Dickens wrote, so there aren't very many left to go now. And we are going to be reading A Tale of Two Cities throughout the month of May 2024. As always with the Mega Dickens Read Along, there is no more complicated schedule than that. Start when you like, finish when you like. We'll be talking about it on the Discord server. I think some people have finished already, and I have started myself, and I'm really enjoying A Tale of Two Cities so far. But I wanted to make a video talking about it before we get really stuck into the month of May. As ever, I will leave down below in the description more details about the Mega Dickens Read Along, including the Discord server and the initial announcement video back from October 2022 when the Read Along began. And I also wanted to add that I have filmed my Little Dorrit reflections video for the Mega Dickens Read Along, but I haven't got around to editing it yet because it is so long, so that'll be up at some point after this video. So let me tell you a bit about what A Tale of Two Cities is about. A Tale of Two Cities was first published in 1859 in a weekly serial form, but it is not set in the Victorian period. It is a work of historical fiction set in the late 18th century following the events of the French Revolution. The novel opens some years before the Revolution in 1775, when a man who has been unjustly imprisoned for 18 years in France is reunited with his long-lost daughter, Lucy. After that, we follow Lucy and her father through many years and look at the experiences of these characters during the French Revolution, both in London and in Paris, hence A Tale of Two Cities. I am really looking forward to my reread of A Tale of Two Cities. I mean, I have started already, like I said. I've listened to a few chapters of the audiobook, and I've been listening to the audiobook narrated by Simon Callow, which I'm really enjoying so far. He's got such a great voice, and he actually wrote the introduction to the audiobook as well on Audible, and I really enjoyed listening to his thoughts about A Tale of Two Cities. A Tale of Two Cities is probably one of the Dickens novels I know less well. I think this is my fourth reading, but it might only be my third. I did study it a little bit at university, but actually not in the English literature half of my degree. So at university I did a joint honours degree in English literature and history, and I didn't study A Tale of Two Cities in English literature, though I studied many other Dickens books in the English literature half of my degree. But one of the modules I did in the history part of my degree was a module about the history of the French Revolution. So it was a historiography module looking at how the French Revolution has been interpreted throughout history after the French Revolution, which was absolutely fascinating, and I really, really loved that module. And then I wrote an essay in that module where I spoke about how Thomas Carlyle's History of the French Revolution and Charles Dickens's A Tale of Two Cities interpreted the French Revolution during the Victorian period, and how they established a particular way of viewing the French Revolution during the Victorian period, which I loved writing, and I remember that very well. But I haven't read A Tale of Two Cities since I wrote that essay at university. So it's been a decade since I last read A Tale of Two Cities, and I feel like this is a book I'm really looking forward to reading, and I feel like it's one that's probably going to go up in my estimation. So I'm kind of excited to get stuck in. So let me give you today 10 reasons why you should read A Tale of Two Cities, and I think it tells you how great A Tale of Two Cities is that I could easily think of 10 reasons why you should read A Tale of Two Cities, even though I haven't read it for a decade. I initially was like, oh, maybe I'll just do 5 for this video because it's been so long since I read it, and then I could easily think of 10 reasons because it is a wonderful book. The first reason why you should read A Tale of Two Cities is because it is about the French Revolution. It is a Victorian work of historical fiction which can tell you interesting things about the French Revolution, but also very interesting things about how the Victorians interpreted the French Revolution. As I said, this is something I find fascinating in A Tale of Two Cities, and it's something I wrote an essay on in university. But if you're interested in history and in how people from different points in history perceived the history before themselves, then A Tale of Two Cities is a wonderfully fantastic, fascinating book to read. And if you're interested in the French Revolution and French history and kind of the intersections between French and British history, then A Tale of Two Cities is just unmissable. The second reason why you should read A Tale of Two Cities is that it is pretty short. It is very compact and readable. I think it's Dickens's second shortest novel after Hard Times. It's not very long. Like, I've been listening to lots of Dickens audiobooks in the Mega Dickens Readalong, and so many of them have been like 30 to 40 hours, and A Tale of Two Cities is just like 15 hours, which is like a pretty standard regular length for an audiobook. A Tale of Two Cities is a pretty short, readable novel, and it's a nice one to give some time to that is going to take up less of your life than Bleak House. The third reason why you should read A Tale of Two Cities is that it is quite a different Dickens novel. I would say that A Tale of Two Cities is the least Dickensian of his novels. Does that mean I love it slightly less? Maybe. Does that mean that if you're a massive Dickens fan, there might be some things that you feel are lacking? Maybe. But I feel like if you're someone who loves Dickens a little bit less, then you're possibly more likely to love A Tale of Two Cities. Like, I feel like a lot of people love A Tale of Two Cities who don't love other Dickens books necessarily. I feel like within A Tale of Two Cities, the pacing is very, very different, and the characters are a lot less eccentric, or some of the characters, the majority of the characters are a lot less eccentric. So I feel like A Tale of Two Cities is a very interesting book for the fact that it's quite a different Dickens in some ways. As I said, the fact it's a bit less Dickensian than some of his other novels maybe makes me love it less, but also I do think it makes it really, really interesting, and I'm excited to see what I think of it this time around. The fourth reason to read A Tale of Two Cities is that the plot is very, very pacey. This is a much less character-driven novel than other Dickens books, and especially than something like Little Dorrit, which was the last book we read for the Mega Dickens Read-Along. There is a lot of plot in The Tale of Two Cities, and a lot happens. Considering the novel spans like several decades, there are so many dramatic incidences, and the plot is very, very pacey. You know, it's set during the French Revolution, so a lot happens. And I feel like that makes it quite an interesting Dickens book, quite a different one, as I said, and also a Dickens book that is really fast-paced and interesting to read. Moving on to some thematic reasons, the fifth reason I recommend reading A Tale of Two Cities is because the themes of oppression and revolution and kind of what leads to a revolution are really, really interestingly explored in a really nuanced, complicated way. Dickens looks very interestingly at the revolution from both sides. I think it's kind of clear pretty early on in A Tale of Two Cities that he believes the kind of populace of France were treated very badly by the upper classes before the revolution, but he also believes the means of the French Revolution were not justified, and he's very, very critical of the violence and kind of terror that followed. And I feel like the complexities within that are really, really interesting, and I feel like his interpretation of the French Revolution and of the causes of it and the kind of themes around that are really, really interesting. The sixth reason why you should read A Tale of Two Cities is for the way this book looks at violence and kind of crowd mob mentality. This is something that Dickens explored a bit in the riot scenes in Barnaby, Rudge, and it's something that he returns to in A Tale of Two Cities and explores really, really well. So I feel like if you found Barnaby Rudge really interesting, you'll find A Tale of Two Cities really interesting too. And this was something I remember writing about quite a lot in my essay about his exploration on the French Revolution. Interestingly, I found when reading Barnaby Rudge for the Mega Dickens Read-Along that listening to kind of scenes of crowd violence on audiobook, they really came to life a lot more than on the page. So I'm going to be interested to see whether I find those scenes kind of more dramatic and more interesting in A Tale of Two Cities this time too. The seventh reason why you should read A Tale of Two Cities is for the setting. This novel is a tale of two cities. It is a book about London and Paris, and the way this book kind of compares and contrasts London and Paris and looks at different things within them is really, really interesting. Dickens is an author who is kind of very well known for writing books about London, and I feel like a lot of our kind of popular conception of Victorian London, certainly in the UK, is very much taken from Dickens. So it's really interesting to see Dickens comparing London with another city within Europe, and looking at the differences between them. Admittedly, in the 18th century, not in the Victorian period, but I still find it really interesting. The eighth reason why you should read A Tale of Two Cities is a character, and that character is Madame Defarge. Madame Defarge is the standout character of A Tale of Two Cities by a very, very long way. There is another great character who I'll talk about in a minute, but Madame Defarge is amazing, and I feel like Madame Defarge is fascinating, and I am very excited to encounter her again. At university, I used to occasionally write poetry, and I used to occasionally write poetry from the perspective of literary characters, and I do have somewhere on my computer a poem that I wrote from the perspective of Madame Defarge, which in my head is quite good, but I think if I returned to it, I probably wouldn't like, but there we go. Madame Defarge is just fascinating. Imbued from her childhood with a brooding sense of wrong and an inveterate hatred of her class, Opportunity had developed her into a tigress. She was absolutely without pity. Madame Defarge is fascinating. Reason number 9 why you should read A Tale of Two Cities is for the character of Sydney Carton. Sydney Carton is another wonderful character within A Tale of Two Cities, and he has a really, really interesting arc. He kind of fits into a similar category to characters like James Harthouse from Hard Times and Eugene Rayburn from Our Mutual Friends. This kind of bored, careless young man whose interactions with a particular woman might change him a little bit. His arc is so interesting, and I feel like he's the other really fascinating character within A Tale of Two Cities. To be honest, after Sydney Carton and Madame Defarge, there are not that many characters in A Tale of Two Cities that I'm excited about. It's a very plot-driven novel, and I would argue that the characterisation in A Tale of Two Cities is a little bit weaker than in some of his other novels, and especially in the rest of Dickens's later novels. However, maybe I will change my mind about that as I read the novel this time, and Sydney Carton and Madame Defarge are fascinating. And finally, the 10th reason why you should read A Tale of Two Cities is for the ending. I obviously don't want to say anything more about the ending, but the ending is like one of the best things about A Tale of Two Cities. It is fantastic and pitch perfect and great, and it is one of Dickens's strongest endings. Maybe when it comes to like the very end, it might be the best ending in all of Dickens. I remember when I first read A Tale of Two Cities, I read it all the way through and I was like, I'm quite enjoying this, but it's not my favourite Dickens book. And then I remember reading the last chapter and being like, this was amazing. So I feel like A Tale of Two Cities is worth reading for the sheer amazingness of the ending. So there we go. Those are 10 reasons why you should read A Tale of Two Cities. Do let me know down in the comments if you've read this one before and if you're going to be joining us for the Mega Dickens Readalong in May. That's all for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.